Hello, listeners of the Art Versations podcast. Well, hello! Happy Monday, or whatever day of the week it might be for you. This is Art Versations, a meditative conversation about the artistic process. I will be your hostess with the mostess, Bri, like the cheese. And just like when a full wheel of Gouda shows up to the party, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe or follow on your preferred platform so you are updated on new episodes and the intriguing artists that are featured. And I can't wait any longer, so let's just dive into this week's episode. I caught this dancer, choreographer, and teacher while he was visiting Toronto in the midst of his travels. He's currently based in London and has some very massive projects on the way, as you'll see very soon. He shared some juicy behind-the-scenes stories from set. And please stick around till the end for a special conversation about being on the short-lived Canadian version of So That You Can Dance. Remember that bad boy? Settle in and make sure to grab some tea and crumpets. Here is the hilarious and forever genuine Kevin Howe. That's just the nature of online class. Yeah. It's like a screen that I'm supposed to look at, right?
Yes.
It's the worst.
Like a really fun movie.
It's so...
but not fun at all.
I paid so much money for this movie and I'm not getting anything from it.
Yes.
Literally.
100%.
Hi, Kev.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm really excited.
Yay!
I am really excited to chat.
Thank you for making the time to come and see me.
Of course.
And like in your travels, I really feel lucky to catch you.
I feel like this is what I need to be doing, is making time to do things like this, because this like truly excites me. And when you reached out, I was like, yes, 100%. This is something I want to do. So like I didn't even give myself the choice. I was like, I'm making time to do this. So I'm really excited.
I really appreciate that. It's like not only like a really nice full circle moment to like speak to you, being your student for so long and also your friend, but like just to like catch you in person, like in the midst of things. Like I think that's it's been a busy time for you with all the jobs that you've had. So it's really nice to have you in this moment and hear about your process.
I appreciate that so much, honestly. I need to do more of this. So I am so happy you opened the door and welcomed me in.
Yeah. This is the podcast for you to speak.
Yes, I love it.
And class last night was really great.
Thank you so much for coming. It's been a minute since I've taught in Toronto, and there's always that like anxiety, and I had that when I left the city of like, will I be able to come back here and feel at home? And that was just the best reminder, and like seeing your face there, and like so many other people who used to take my class when I was teaching regularly in Toronto. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. And doing this with you and that class last night are the things I'm leaving Toronto on. So that is a really like positive thing. That's exactly how I needed to finish my time in Toronto.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it was such a nice like a reminder of like what we used to have.
Yes.
Like when you used to have like a regular drop-in class.
Yes.
And of course it's at this new studio too, this beautiful space at the Studio North. It's like, it's so wonderful to have that much space in the studio.
It's unheard of.
Right?
Like, it's actually unheard of. And that wasn't even the biggest studio.
No way.
Like,
oh my gosh.
There's a studio twice the size. Yeah.
I
peeked in quickly, but
yeah,
there was a class going on, but I just like peeked in. It's
I walked
huge.
in and I was like I'm so used to like my bedroom taking class, or like in this space right here.
That's the other thing. The bar is set at a weird place.
So weird. And like I haven't stretched my arms like fully in a while.
You're not kicking a lamp or an animal or a family member or a roommate, and it's a really nice feeling to have
nice
space.
I actually can point my feet and stretch my legs. This is good. And like I haven't taken like an in-person class in maybe 6 months.
I was just gonna ask.
It was like one of my first to come back to.
Everything's been so closed, I know, here in Toronto. When I was talking to Roy about it, and he said, no, classes in-person classes have not been a thing. Like, they just haven't been a thing. And
Yeah.
I definitely have taken for granted being in London, where things are a little wild, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But like, their classes, they've found a way to keep classes going. So it's been a bit touch and go, but I've been able to stay in class and be taking class.
Wow.
So I didn't realize last night, and seeing all those faces and people just like getting familiar with being in a room with other dancers
Exactly.
is an experience.
Yeah.
Like, getting reacquainted with that is an experience in itself.
Oh yeah, for sure. My anxiety was way up in the best way. It was like, oh, this is what I used to love, and this is what I remember. It was just, but still having that like readjustment period. Yeah.
I feel like I've forgotten so many basic skills. Like, time management's a big one for me. My social skills, obviously. I constantly feel like I don't know what to do with myself. I constantly don't know how to manage my time. And like, these are all things I forgot when I just had nothing to do but drink rosé on my balcony.
Totally,
for like, how many months?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Just constantly on vacation during the pandemic. And like getting back into work mode and like, you know, but without like over scheduling yourself. Like, I wonder, I feel like I've been kind of so excited that things are happening again that I like take on too much almost.
Yep.
Which is totally you know, what I used to do like pre-pandemic.
And we had like, I mean, I had all these moments where it's the same thing. I was like, this is just, I need to find this balance again where I am able to say no. And instead of, you know, there's 24 hours in a day, but I don't need to use 14 of them to be working. Right. Like, there's never been a time, and I think I said this to you last night, and I was talking to my friend Danny the other night, but there's never been a time when I was like out doing something that I was like, I wish I had fit in another 4 hours of teaching. I wish I had that money. I'm too busy enjoying life.
Yeah.
And I just need to realize that. And this trip home has been that. Like, I've had this wonderful balance of teaching, and I've gotten to teach some really wonderful studios and some really wonderful people, but then I had my own time, and I get to do things like this, and I get to go out for dinner with friends and reconnect in this like incredible city that I've missed so much. And I'm leaving not feeling like drained and like burnt out. I'm like excited and energized and happy, and I love it so much.
Like, who knew you could be happy doing what you love?
Even talking to my boyfriend last night, he's like, you sound so happy right now. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I love when people can like tell you're just in a good headspace. And that energy is like vibing.
It's like, we should feel that way all the time, or as much as we can, even though we're hustling and trying to like make ends meet, especially with like so many jobs being diminished over the course of these last 18 months or whatever. But I feel like, you know, being a human is like number one for me right now. It's like the connections that I can make with people like this, going to bars, going to restaurants, like seeing a movie, like that informs my practice. And I think sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't need to do any of those regular human, you know, genuine activities. I just need to be in class. I just need to be like researching all the time. And then I like don't have the emotional capacity to like dance or act or anything. Exactly.
Because it's so just stupid. Overrun. And I think that is something that in all arts definitely, but it obviously my experiences with dancers, that everyone does. And I think because we obviously didn't get into this line of work for the money. Nope. So like,
hell no.
Like, it's all passion. And when you're that passion, it like bleeds into your life. There's no separation between your life and work. And a lot of the social aspect of it is taking class and seeing people, but you forget that can't be the only socializing you do. That can't be the only human interactions you have. I've definitely, in like, now that I turned 30 and I'm in my early 30s, and I've really prioritized, like, I have my dance friends and I absolutely love them, but I actually like love what I call like my normal friends, like my friends who work to 9 to 5, like my Rachel Cogans, you know, like you know Rachel, obviously, that's why I dropped that name, but seeing those people and getting that side of life and being like, oh, like we do live it a bit in a bubble, dancers. Like, it's so strange what we do, and like I said, everything's kind of bled together, and our community is just like that. So I do need to find those boundaries, and I think I'm getting better at it finally in my early 30s.
Wow, eh?
Yeah. It takes time.
Just now.
Yeah, just now.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah.
I'm sure it happens earlier for other people, but...
But yeah, it's true. Like, you have to, like, stay within the community of the people that you work with. Like, they're not just your colleagues, but they have to be your friends.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's the nature of, like, oh, I saw you in class then, or, you know, let's go for drinks after rehearsal or something like that. Like, that is, like, the driving force of how we collaborate, I feel like. But then, yeah, like, oh, that makes me so happy to hear that you still are close with Rachel.
Oh, I was with her last night before class.
Get out!
I was like, I'm going to go downtown early, and she was having a birthday party for her boyfriend's dog.
Oh, my gosh.
So, like, setting up decorations and... You know, just have a drink on the balcony, and, like, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And then I get to do that, and, you know, there's a moment where you're like, oh, I almost wish I didn't have to teach, but then you go to the studio and like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. But, again, it is so nice. I go be a normal person and chat with people who, like, have, like, I mean, obviously Rachel has a relationship with dance. That's how we met. That's why we've been friends for as long as we have been. But she has so many other things going on, and then we can talk about and catch up on that aren't related to dance and what I do on a daily basis, which is so nice.
Yeah, Rachel used to dance at Leeming, where you used to dance as well, and where I used to dance as well. For listeners who don't know, and yeah, so you're originally from Ottawa, and then you moved to Toronto after high school.
Yeah.
And then you moved to London recently.
I did.
What a shift.
What a shift is right.
What a transition.
Yeah, I was in Toronto for like, it must have been 12 years.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say,
so
a long time.
Yeah, over a decade, which was amazing.
Well, and that's why I was like, oh wow, he's moving? Like, I thought maybe you had put your roots down in Toronto, you know? Like, it was so long.
And I think that I had, and I think for a long time I was like, I was dancing a lot in my early 20s. I was doing a lot of like film and TV work, which was really great. And then I got injured. So and I was always teaching a lot too. There was always a lot of both. But then after I got injured, it was just like, I just transitioned into doing the teaching and choreographing so much. And then it just becomes comfortable. And I think that I had it in my head. I was like, I want to start dancing again. I want to do these things. But I felt like there was a bit of a reputation, like for myself, like I had this idea that people were looking at me in class and being like, oh, he's already having established a career. Why does he look like this dancing? Like, I didn't feel comfortable being in class. And Toronto's just a tight-knit community. Yeah. And I wasn't making the time to do it. I took a couple classes. And the natural progression for everyone in Canada seems to be New York or LA. That is where when you talk to, especially young dancers, like, I want to be in LA, I want to be doing this. And I felt that way as well. Like, I was like, I want to be in LA or New York. I love New York. And then I was like, eventually realized after I started doing my visa, I was like, I don't have any desire to live in the States.
Isn't that funny?
Like, you
were just doing it because you thought you had to?
Yeah, I was like, oh, there's great work there. I can do more of the stuff I've already done on a bigger scale. How amazing would that be? Yeah. But it's just a fun place to visit, but I couldn't ever imagine, like, living there.
Wow.
And then I just knew, though, if I didn't make a change from what was happening in Toronto, that I'd regret it. Like, I just wanted to live somewhere else and try it. My family's from England, so I'm first generation Canadian. Both my parents were born in Europe.
Okay, so you knew some people, or you had some connections.
Yeah, some family up north in Liverpool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then I was like, I've been there a couple times. Yeah. I like it. I know they have their own industry going on.
Yes, yeah.
So
And you're in, like, London.
I am.
Like, in the city. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what my rent says.
I'm wondering if it's like as expensive as Toronto or LA.
More.
It's more.
More expensive than Toronto. In my head, I'm like, well,
what
Toronto's expensive too. Like, it's wildly expensive.
Yeah, it actually is.
Then I like do the conversion of what I'm paying, and I'm like, oh, I'd be living in a real nice condo in Toronto for this amount.
Really?
Like, it is.
I think that was true.
It is wild, and just the cost of everything except for groceries.
Oh.
Groceries seem to be well priced.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. Cheap bananas.
Get some avocados, why don't you?
Avocados, wildly cheap compared to here. So that is a positive. Okay, but the rent, the cost of living is wild.
Are the opportunities more scarce or more, abundant?
I would say more abundant.
Okay, good.
Like, it's actually wild how much they do there with, like, award shows, the amount of filming that goes on there. I will say, like, there's just so many more people.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember moving to Toronto from Ottawa, and obviously I'm sure you experienced this too, and, like, you moved to go to Ryerson, so you were living downtown.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, that, I remember getting here and just being like, this city is so vast. There's so many bodies,
personalities, lifetimes to like memorize and like
and it's that, and then I did it all over again with London, because London's about 10 million people.
Jeez.
So it's like there's even more people, and there's more dancers fighting for these jobs. So that fight is real. Like, there's definitely a lot of competition. And there's also the cultural difference.
Yes.
Like, I thought in moving to an English speaking country that it would be a like definitely smoother transition than it probably was.
Right.
Just different sense of humor, different like outlooks on life, completely different upbringings, like through the school system. So it's just finding your place in all of that, and then trying to get the work.
Like, as an immigrant or someone from away.
100%.
That's interesting. I feel like too, like when you spoke about, wanting to still be a performer as well as a teacher and choreographer, like still making time to, branch out to other people's communities, like especially like when you're moving there and you don't know like very many people, like having to almost like reprove yourself, or like, did you make any discoveries early on about like how your dancing has changed just as a dancer?
Well, I'm a lot less mobile than I used to be. Just like when you're not putting your body through those motions, like it takes time. I feel way better now than I did when I first started taking class. But it's definitely a lot of that. But then on the other side, I felt like there was no expectation. Because like earlier, I remember me saying like getting back into class, and I feel like I knew so many people in Toronto already. So when you go, you're seeing faces and people are already taken back to like, Kevin's taking class? Like, because I hadn't taken class. I wasn't a face that you'd see in class. Where then going to London, there was no expectation. Nobody knew who I was. I moved there. A few weeks later, I was just like, oh, I follow this person on Instagram. I'm going to go take class. And you're just one face in a sea of, 80 to 90 people in a class out there, because classes can get quite big. And there's no expectation, which is really freeing and nice, just to feel comfortable going. I can go to class by myself. I was going to class by myself. I didn't feel this attachment to, whereas here I would always make Jordan come with me, because she would take class and be like, Jordan, if I'm going to take class, you have to be there. And like make this big deal, like I needed a babysitter or an escort to come with me, because like I didn't feel comfortable. I was like, no one knows who I am. I feel like cloak of invisibility, like fly under the radar completely.
Having someone else to kind of like be a collaborative partner. But even though you're there for your own training, interesting.
Yes.
Jordan Boyle, also a babysitter.
Yes,
as well as
exactly. I need a push from her sometimes.
Oh my God, same here. Well, now she's moving to London as well.
She literally moved.
That's so crazy.
She arrived yesterday morning.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a little bit sad I can't be there to like greet her and give her like the big tour of the city, but she's been there before. She'll figure it out. Totally. Hopefully she'll be a little more settled by the time I get there, and we'll just jump right back into it.
I'm sure you will.
So nice.
Yeah, that's going to be great to have her there. I feel like there's something kind of nice about not knowing anyone, because then you kind of like start from zero. Like I feel like when I take class in like a whole new space, like I was recently in North Carolina before the pandemic, and I was just taking classes with actors and singers and like non-dancers, like movers, but non like competitive dancers. And for me, it was a moment of just like, okay, clean slate. I'm gonna just start this class like not even taking anything that I've previously known. I'm just gonna listen to the teacher and start there.
Yes.
And by the end of the class, like you say, that liberation kind of happens where there's no prior expectation or like previous goal that I need to like then meet again in this new class, you know? And it helps me to you know, get over any like trauma that I felt in my body, or like any nerves around, you know, oh, that person, they've seen me do something bad, or like,
yes,
I
that
fell in
feeling.
class or something. Oh no, they're gonna like judge me for it. Like, yeah, there's something really, really nice about being in a new space with new people.
Yeah,
because it's just like
new personalities, especially when it's not just dancers, because I mean, dancers, whether you're a commercial dancer, concert dancer, like contemporary or ballet, whatever it is, I think there is like we all kind of go into these situations the same way. The pressure we put on ourselves in the classroom is similar no matter what style you're doing. But it's really nice to be in a space with just other creatives.
Yeah.
If they're, like, whatever their medium is, like if they're singers, if they're actors, and you don't put this pressure. It's not about getting your leg up here. And like you said, just listen to the teacher and experience something new. Because I know, especially me as a dancer, I'm very stubborn. And I just like feel this need to always be the best. It's just that competitiveness in me.
Right.
And I
Same.
think, and that's why I can't take yoga. I'm constantly trying to go too deep in my lunge. And I'm like, this is not what this is meant for. Like, take a step back. But it's nice to be in that room and kind of feed off the way other people are taking class.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's different ways of doing it,
Yes.
right? Like, it's not just about, like, getting the combo and then being in the select group at the end. I really liked, too, what you said last night in class about not finding confidence from the teacher telling you that you did well, but finding the confidence within yourself.
Yeah.
That was, like, a big moment of, like, oh, yeah. Like, I have been kind of watching teachers on Zoom, kind of like they're just demonstrating the moves, and then I try to copy or imitate because that's just the nature of online class. It's like a screen that I'm supposed to look at, right?
Yes.
It's the worst.
Like a really fun movie.
It's so
but not fun at all.
I paid so much money for this movie and I'm not getting anything from it. Yes. Literally
100%.
And it's like really nice to know that like I have to find that confidence within myself again. Like
it is crazy. Like, I mean, last night was nice because it was like professionals, but like the past week that I've been in Toronto and the few days prior to that I was in Ottawa teaching at like summer intensives, like competitive dance intensives.
Yeah.
It's hard because this time last year things had opened up again and I was doing intensives. And no one had been in the studio for 3 months and everyone was so hungry and so excited.
Yeah.
Everyone was willing to do anything, and you could see the sparkle, you could see the hunger.
Yeah.
Now we've been dragged through the mud, the carpet's been pulled out from underneath us multiple times. So being back in the studio, especially with young people, I did feel like that shine was like a little dimmer, and it made me sad because like these kids, like as an adult, I have developed coping mechanisms, and some healthier than others, like to get through experiences and traumas like this. But at that age, you're still trying to figure it out. You don't have those coping mechanisms. And to be in a studio with the same kids a year later where they just don't seem the same. And I'm like, I want to inspire them, but they also need to discover those coping mechanisms and push themselves to find confidence and remember why they're in the studio, why they've been on Zoom taking these classes, so that when they come back to the studio, they don't feel completely crazy, like out of sorts with their bodies.
Yes.
And it's definitely just people are lacking the confidence right now, and I understand it. Yeah. But I think we just need to. Once we push past it, it'll be okay.
That's so true. Yeah, I feel like I've been marking for like 20 months. Just constantly marking.
Because again, there's the fear of kicking a couch or an animal or a flatmate or like whatever it is. Like it's not good. No matter how much space you create in your home, there's nothing that replicates a studio.
No, not at all. That's so interesting. Yeah, it's like being able to remind myself again about what I need for class, and also like what class can give me outside of being perfect or being successful in a traditional way or something like that. Like I feel like it's a little bit again of that like reset or that relearning of like, okay, we stopped for a little bit. I need to continue to train online, but like now that I'm back in person, like I don't have to be the same dancer that I was pre.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think that we all put those expectations on ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, I feel like most of the people I've surrounded myself with have luckily come out of the pandemic with, like, well, not come out of, but I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're going to say coming out of it, end is in sight. But with like a better like sense of self and self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so easy to fall into like a dark pit of despair, especially through all of this. But most of the people I know have just like become a better version of themselves and like are accepting those facts and like are not so hard on themselves.
Right,
And
right.
that's really nice.
Yeah.
Like this hustle and bustle all the time and this push and this perfection, and it's not necessary. You can still enjoy what we're doing and like take it back a notch.
Yeah, yeah. No one really cares.
No one. No one cares as much as you think they do. That's for damn sure.
No, I mean, I'm saying that so I can remind myself, because I'm always like, they're going to care.
Or like many a nights I lie in bed not being able to sleep and thinking about things I did like 2 years ago. I'm like, I wonder if they still think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
They,
realizing through all of this that other people have those same wild thoughts, and like everyone is the same. We all experience these things.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Just move on. And
We move.
Move.
We move.
Oh, let's shift gears a little bit, because I'd love to hear more about all of these jobs that you've been doing. These incredible productions.
Some good stuff has happened. Some
fucking
lovely
awesome
things.
stuff.
Yes.
I'm thrilled to talk about Disenchanted, because it's a movie that I didn't think was going to get made.
Agreed.
It's been so long since the first one.
Yeah.
And it's Adam Shankman directing.
Yes.
So
and choreographing.
And choreographing.
Both.
So
yeah.
you know it's going to be so good, because he did the first one, I believe. Even still, like, he did Hairspray and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, he just has such a great eye. And I wonder too, like, being back in a film that is now a sequel, like, was there a little bit of like, okay, we have to make it like as good as the first one, or was it a completely separate thing because it's been so long?
You know, it did. It's funny you asked that. I didn't even think about that. There definitely was. I don't think, from what we got as dancers, I don't think there was any of that pressure.
Oh, good.
I mean, Adam seems so comfortable in what he's doing. Like, he's definitely born to do this. He's got, like you said, such a good eye. I think he has a lot of confidence in what he's doing, and like Amy Adams is amazing. Patrick Dempsey is amazing. Maya Rudolph has been added to the cast.
Oh, yay!
She's the villain. Like, he was working with some real competent, incredible actors. So I think that like it just flowed naturally. And from what being on set, and I was there for 2 months, which is an incredible job to get, especially, I mean, not even during a pandemic, at any time for a dancer to be on a contract for that long in a film is amazing. But from what I got, I really think it's going to be a wonderful movie. Like, I honestly cannot wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's one of the things in my career that I'm just like so excited to see the outcome.
Yeah.
And I felt very involved, which is always nice. It wasn't just like in and out. Like, they made us feel very involved in the whole process, and I feel like we're very much a part of the film.
Fantastic.
Which is really nice.
And you were telling me that they like turned, because it was in Dublin that you filmed
So
that one?
it was based in Dublin.
Okay.
And then they turned this village called Enniskerry into like a real life Disney town. And like there's TikToks of it, videos of it all. Like it is absolutely like wild. And I remember one day we were on set talking to one of the prop guys, and like the budget just for flowers was 2 million euros.
Whoa!
So it's just like gorgeous, floral.
Yeah.
Like the way they made the buildings look. I mean, it's Ireland, and it was an old village, so it already has a very Disney-esque like feel to it.
Very fairy tale.
Yeah, very fairy tale. But the
Yeah.
way they enhanced it was like wild, and like being there, just like looking around, being like, this is a real village.
Yeah,
like,
the acting was probably very easy, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Wow, that's so neat too, to like be in a real life, like so almost site specific. It seems like
100%.
not so like fabricated, I guess, the set.
Because I mean, working in film and television, sometimes when you go into a studio, it does take away a little bit of the magic. Like when you're in like a big black, and it's just basically a stage.
Yeah.
And there's just all cameras pointed at this one lit area. Some of the magic does get taken away, and then you see it on TV, and you're like, you're remembering it in such a different way.
Wow.
Like, you remember the experience in such a different way than it's portrayed. But I think that in this, like, particular instance, like, I will look at it and I will have very fond memories, and I'll be able to enjoy it and be like, wow, yeah, that's a real village. We were there. We did that. Just a completely different experience.
Yeah, you did that.
I did that.
You did that thing. This like incredible sequel. I mean, the cast that you're mentioning already is like crazy cool, and that they came back too to do the second one. And so, like, were you said that you were involved, was it mostly, like, background, or did you play a character of some kind with lines?
No, there was no lines. They did ask me, I got sent randomly after I got the job as a dancer. Mm-hmm. I got a random email from someone being like, hi, so we'd like you to slate and read these lines and sing this song. And I was like, what is going on here? I don't sing. I'm not an actor. Sheer panic. I felt like I should have just been excited. Oh, they want me to read lines, but I didn't really understand the context.
Gotcha.
So I did, I guess, audition. I did submit for a speaking role. Didn't get it, which is totally fine. Don't know if I would have been able to manage that. But we were in two main scenes. There's like a big fairy tale dance scene that's very much about the singing and dancing.
Okay.
And then there was a waltz scene where it's like happening at a big, what did they call it? A festival, and Maya's the queen, and she's there, and we're all dancing around. So it's a little bit more background, and reactive stuff. So we'll see. It's always interesting to see how they cut things like that.
Yeah.
Because you tell someone you're in a movie like this, and you're like, oh my god, are we gonna see you?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Especially like in like something like that big dance number, you probably will, because it's very much about the people singing and dancing. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge like feature part. But then, I mean, when you're just movement in the background, no one's trying to get a cute clip of you doing anything.
You might have to zoom in a lot.
Yeah. It's about the actors.
Okay. But no, I think there's a wonderful element to musical movies that they include these dancers and these formations of movement, and I think it almost kind of helps with the fairy tale aspect of everything, because it really it allows it for the audience, yes, to look at the actors, but then also like be so adding these layers of movement around. Like I'm picturing even like the Cinderella movie or something like that, where like it's just this big mesh of dancers.
Yeah. And
without them, like it would be so boring.
100%. You know, and that's a big conversation right now, isn't it? A huge conversation.
I know.
I mean, it's been a conversation forever. But like, when you think of every other art form, and especially when you're involved in a production of this magnitude, I feel like the dancers are at the bottom of the barrel, which is awful. That is another thing I can say about Adam. Because he's a dancer, the way he treated us was like nothing I've ever experienced before on a job like this.
Wow.
He knows how to shoot dance, first of all, so he doesn't have us doing ridiculous things that'll injure us. Good. He's very considerate about giving us breaks, making sure that we have water, making sure that we feel comfortable, and not doing things that we don't need to do. If we're not going to be in the shot, he doesn't have us dancing full out. It doesn't make sense. Whereas a lot of the time, you're dancing full out in ridiculous circumstances that could get you injured, and then you realize it's not even used because the director doesn't know how to shoot dance, so they're just like, it's an afterthought.
Right.
But
we have to have dancers.
Yeah. But Adam makes you feel very important, like in a really wonderful way, and that was such a positive experience. It was so nice to work with someone like that.
Yeah.
And appreciate the work that you're putting in and why you were hired, and you're not just an afterthought. You are the reason why this is going to look the way that it looks.
Totally.
Which is so nice.
Yeah, I mean it's an important element because there's so much stimulation that you get from it. Like watching a lot of people dance in unison or even not in unison, like I'm just so like invigorated by that. Maybe I'm biased, but like
and that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, do I just love that because of what I do? But no, I think that everyone appreciates that.
I think everyone appreciates that if we like point it out.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, of course there's gonna be dancers in this movie.
Exactly.
Of course there's gonna be backup dancers for Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga and whatever. Like I'm sure you've experienced that too. Like it's just like in your experience you've been always like in the back, and it's like if you weren't there, then like it's just one person on stage, and people would be like, oh, this sucks.
This is a bit boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like they don't even know what they're missing.
No, they don't. Maybe just take that away for a second.
Yeah, right?
Because it is wildly important.
That's really nice to hear that Adam was, was knowing in his eye about how to capture it, but also the process being supportive and like, I guess he like took his time with it too. Like it wasn't like a rush thing.
No, the fact that we did 2 major scenes and then we had like little bits and pieces there, here and there, but we were there for 2 months. Like it's crazy what goes into it. And he had these 2 incredible assistant choreographers, Casey and Haley, and they did most, because they preset things, and then obviously Adam was shooting, so he would come in on Saturdays and fix things, but we were working mostly with Casey and Haley, and honestly they're just like the same as him. Amazing. Making sure we had to dance in masks, obviously, because of the pandemic, and we were testing, but giving us breaks, making sure we could breathe and stuff, and just taking care of us. Like, so nice.
That's really needed right now, but also just in general, dancers and background and people who are there because they, aren't the star. Yeah.
Yes.
There's such a collaborative thing to film too. I think there's so many people involved, and with the crew too. Like it's such a community experience that we have to get this thing done. And if we don't work together, like it's gonna 100%. Be shit. Yeah.
The one thing I don't love about set, I will say, is like there does sometimes feel like a bit of like a hierarchy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like
still,
what makes me feel sick is the way extras get treated. Which is why I did extra work one time and I was like, nope. The second you get there, they're like, oh, you're an extra. You get different coffee, you get a bag of bread with some peanut butter, and just the way you're spoken to. I'm like, everyone's a human being here, and we're being paid for our time, but it's not okay. And you do feel that sometimes.
Interesting. I mean, it's the same thing that we're saying, like extras are an important part of a scene.
Yes.
Like it's going to look like a really weird coffee shop if there's not like other people involved.
Yes, 100%.
So that's really that's sad to hear. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like things have changed, but maybe they haven't.
It definitely depends what you're working on.
The project.
Yeah. Because I felt it less working on like Disenchanted than I have on like some other projects prior. Gotcha. But again, we had Adam and Casey and Haley in our corner fighting and saying they need to be treated a certain way. They're like putting their bodies through all the motions, dancing on cement, like listen to us and treat them well. And
then it's going to get done in such a great way,
it
sounds like.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. I feel like, too, sometimes the process of making something can be very, like, grueling, but then the product looks really great.
Yeah.
But there's those wonderful moments when the process works out, too.
Yes.
There's also those moments when the process is awesome and then the product is
the end product, yes.
That's not what I thought it was going to look like.
Okay, well, at least we had fun making that.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
That's good to hear, though. Yeah, this seems like it's going to be really like I
absolutely can't wait.
Phenomenon. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have been like raving about the fact that it's even happening.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the first one came out in 2007.
Oh my god.
Which is wild.
It's really been that long.
It's been nearly 15 years. And like, yeah, it is really great. And I mean, I've done a few of the Disney thing, like in my early 20s. I did Sharpae's Fabulous Adventure, Frenemies, some like those real fun ones. And it was real nice to come back to like Disney and be like, oh, I can add another Disney movie to the CV. Like it feels nice. Feels nice.
I've always wanted to do one. I feel like a DCOM. I would be so happy to do a Disney Channel original movie.
Like,
oh my gosh.
I mean, I would describe myself as a pretty happy person. I love the, like, overacting of it. Yeah. Honestly. The smiling and the, like, it feels great.
Ah, that's
so, if you ever get the option, like, the chance to audition, do it.
No, I'd love to be in, like, Camp Rock 5.
Yes.
When it comes out.
Yes.
That's so great to hear. Yeah, it's like, it's one of those goals that I have, but I don't know. I guess I'm still trying to figure out how to branch more into commercial because I've been focusing so much on concert.
100%.
I love both, and I feel like there's space for both, but I feel like I have to sometimes choose.
That is strange, isn't it? Like this. I mean, it almost comes back to like the community and how we always feel like we need to show face and just be, you need to make yourself feel relevant. And when you feel like there's two separate communities, like in your case, like commercial and the concert world, they are very different. I believe that you can do both. I think that it is possible 100% to do both. And I think if you like enjoy both, why would you not?
Yeah.
But you do feel like you're splitting your time, and sometimes you feel like you can't be where you need to be. And I did notice, like, when we got to Dublin, I didn't know a single person on the job.
Wow.
I found out that my friend Myron had booked it, but we had just worked together one time before. We ended up becoming really close, but I didn't know anyone, and most of the cast was from London, and I had been there for 2 years.
Wow.
So I was like, how do I not know any of these people?
Right, yeah.
And they're like, well, you're a commercial boy. I'm like, I'm a what? Oh, you do commercial. I'm like, well, what are we doing right now?
Yeah,
like, well, this is MT. This is musical theater. I'm like, wow.
Oh, wait, what?
Is it though?
It's not. I would say it's definitely commercial.
That's how I would describe it. Yeah, it's on film, and we weren't actually singing.
Right.
It was very performance, like it was very, I guess, musical theater style dancing.
Right.
But there's definitely a huge divide in England where I didn't know any of them, and they all have very different backgrounds. A lot of them were like West End performers, and they had done that kind of stuff. Yeah. So when they kind of pigeonholed me and were like, "Oh, you're a commercial boy," I'm like, well, actually, I'm like a technician, and yeah, I do commercial, but I love contemporary. I can give you some Fosse, a little bit of ballet, even if I haven't taken a class in 10 years. I still give you a tendu.
I can still stretch.
A strong 90, definitely.
Yes, of course. You have that in your wheelhouse, and it's like, yeah, for me too. I'm like constantly trying to like challenge myself to do both. Almost. Yeah. Like it's like a task of like, well, I have grown up mostly on stage, but like I can use what I know into film. And even with like the pandemic, I feel like I've really chosen film right now. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I want to do both, but I don't want this experience of someone being like, well, you can't do both because you're just that. And
like, yeah, we need to do less of that.
Yeah.
It's like, we're dancers. We all do different projects.
We're creatives who can like literally do anything that we like are asked of.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then this amazing opportunity that you had. You're like, yeah, I was on a Netflix show. Like, it just raps. Like, it's cool. You're in the motherfucking Crown.
I Howe? Did the Crown. Yeah, it
was so cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, different process.
Completely different process. Obviously, when you tell someone like, oh, I just finished filming The Crown, and they're amazed, but then they also go, wait, what the fuck were you doing on The Crown? Like, we're not doing tondus on The Crown. Yeah. Like, not much of that going on. Yeah. So it kind of comes back to like what I was describing. Like, we did that big dance scene in Disenchanted, and then we do the waltz scene. It's just about movement and having people that have awareness in their body. So it was the big scene about the Gillies Ball, and we were doing like traditional Scottish dancing. So it was very like fun and free, but like a wonderful experience. And my friend Myron, who I mentioned earlier, we were on set one day at Disenchanted, and he's like, my friend Polly, she's a choreographer, is looking for people for this project. I think you'd be perfect. You should submit. Here's your email. So I sent her an email, submitted for it, and she got back to me a few weeks later and was like, oh, you're booked. I was like, oh, that's really, really lovely. So thank you, Myron.
Yes, thank you, Myron.
And then, doing that project, it was... you go into it, it's one of those jobs that you're like, okay, this is really strange. I can't believe I'm being paid as a dancer right now to do what I'm doing because it's so informal. And I think that as a dancer, I'm used to things being quite like structured and being told what to do from a choreography standpoint. But there's a lot of freedom in that and how you interact. Yeah. And like you do play the role of an extra because when you're not dancing and they hand you a drink and they're like, sip the champagne and have a conversation with this stranger, I'm like sheer panic. I'm like, can't I just do the dance part? Like, no, we don't need you in this part. I'm like, okay, I'll just sip my fake champagne. But it's good. It's coming out of that experience. I'm like, oh, I feel like that's another tool at my disposal now. Like, it's a wonderful thing to practice and like muscle to flex.
Like the doing of nothing.
Yes, and being casual because I'm not good at it at all.
That would be really strange, I feel like, just to like... Did you have to do like etiquette training too of like how to hold a cup and how to...
They did mention a few things because the choreographer actually...
British,
British.
Across the pond.
Across the pond. Realize my English accent. Now, whenever I try and do it in England, they're like, you don't sound English. And I'm like, okay, so I just won't do it.
I feel like I do like the like Towie one, like the only way is
like
like
a bit.
Vibes, like literally.
Yeah,
I'm not even like... That's where I do, but that's not the Crown at all.
Not at all.
No,
the
very
lot
posh.
Proper English,
Yeah.
The choreographer Polly, she is a movement director as well, so she's a choreographer, but she's, I mean, again, there's not much choreography on the Crown, so her main job on the Crown is to teach the actors to embody the characters that they're playing, which is, like, I didn't even realize was a job.
Right.
Like, how crazy.
Wow.
She studied, went to school so that she can learn how to pick up mannerisms and teach them to actors. And I mean, when she told us about that process, about working with some of the actors, I'm like, wow, that is crazy. I obviously appreciate actors so much, what they do, but I don't have a lot of experience in it. So it's hard for me to appreciate all it. But when I hear about things like that, you come into a project and I know you're playing a different person, but especially when you're playing like a historical figure and there's a right way to do it, down to waving, holding a glass, like wow, that is mind blowing.
It's like, what is dance actually?
Yes.
It's like really scaled down to just like a gesture or a gait of some walking or something like that. Yeah, it's like studying those minuscule little mannerisms, like you say. Yeah, and I mean, it brings the world to life. Like, as I'm watching these last two seasons, like, even with like Diana's dance scene in the fourth season, I don't know if you've seen it, but she like literally does a full on like solo on a stage.
What? Yeah. I don't think I think I'm on season 3 right now.
Okay, I don't want to spoil
No.
it.
I'm not. I will still enjoy it even if you give me the lowdown.
It's funny to watch like Charles and Diana like actually use their bodies in dance and like realize that like, because Diana she like takes ballet classes, like literally. And so like watching her move, she doesn't naturally look like a ballerina, but like there is that freedom and that joy, and it's I think it's just like a question of like, what is dance if we're regular people.
Do you know what I love that in the last year on that, like I've had so many people reach out to me and be like, I've started taking online class, like of what I quote unquote call my normal friends, or people who used to dance. And that I love that so much. And they're like, oh, I suck. I'm like, there's no... it's just a universal language. And it doesn't matter if you're booking work or if you're doing it in your living room on like one of those platforms and you're just doing it because, you had time to yourself and you're like, you know what I'd enjoy right now? Learning how to dance.
Yeah.
Because it is that freedom and that joy that you see, especially from someone who's not highly trained and seeking perfection.
Right.
They're literally there to enjoy the movement.
Yes.
And that gives me just like the warmest feeling. I love it, and I'll just encourage anyone who has any kind of interest in moving their bodies to music to fucking do it.
Just do it.
Because it's so nice and it's for everyone.
Yeah, and then maybe like when you watch that movie musical, like you'll actually look for the background dancer and
get
like,
acquainted with that.
Right? Yeah,
100%.
like just realizing that it is a part of our society, like a movement.
Yeah.
And how we navigate through space, while taking care of each other during all of this. Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. Okay, yeah, lots of projects on the way, big ones.
Yeah,
like
some
huge.
big ones. It's like crazy. I'm like, oh, these jobs are really great during a pandemic, and I'm like, no, they're not great during a pandemic. Don't play them down. You need to enjoy them and revel in them and say, I'm proud of myself. I moved to a different country and look what I'm doing, and I need to take that moment and celebrate it. And it is nice to talk about it, so I thank you for like opening this dialogue and letting me get excited about it.
I'm so pleased that you're willing to share and
oh my god, of course.
And just open up that conversation, because it doesn't always get, like you say, it doesn't always get opened to the listeners. And I do want to ask, like, if there's anything coming up that you want to plug, or like even just any classes that you might be teaching soon in London? Anything at all?
I mean, I do have my drop-in studio,
Okay.
my drop-in class at the Hub, which, classes have been a little bit slow in London. I think that with everything opening up and dancers going back to work, but again, if you're working on set or any job, you're being tested. So sometimes being in class, and there's no mask mandate in class in London, so it can feel kind of like a high-risk environment.
So weird.
So it is hard. Because I just finished working on The Crown, I was like, I'm not going to lose this job so that I can go take a 1.5 hour class. Like, you have to weigh the risks.
Yeah.
But I am teaching that class weekly. Right now it's on Wednesdays, but it might be changing to Tuesdays.
Is it contemporary or just funk?
Contemporary.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, which has been nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a good way to meet people as well. But if you're ever in London, come take class.
I'm gonna try.
It's a beautiful studio.
Yeah,
so beautiful.
I want to come out for sure. I've never been. I really want to go to the West End too and see some shows if they're happening.
They are. I just went to go see.
Here.
I know. I was just
like the Mervish sign has the Hamilton marquee up still, and like it looks like an abandoned theater.
That makes me so sad.
I know. I walked by it and I was like, "Okay, Toronto, let's get this together."
There's a way.
Yeah.
They are doing it in London, and you have to show a vaccine or a negative test to get in. But I just went to go see last week. Yeah, on the Monday before I left, to Come From Away. And it's, holy shit, it's so good.
I love that show.
It's so amazing.
And it's Canadian, too.
And it's Canadian. Yeah. So especially right before I was about to leave and I was feeling a little bit homesick, I was like, this is what I need to get me pumped for my trip.
It's a lovely story.
It was so nice being in a theater.
Yeah.
And seeing people on stage moving, and I was like... So when I heard Toronto doesn't have anything going on right now, which is devastating.
Just a lot of park stuff. Which,
right.
I get it. We need to do that right now. It's, public and it's open, but it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like Zoom. Like, I've kind of just exhausted how many park plays I can watch. Or like how many,
100%. No, 100%.
I'm just ready to, be in something formal and, I don't know, some of the best experience I've ever had has been in the theater. I can remember watching, Oliver for the first time when I was younger and just being, so mesmerized by everything that was happening. And, being in a position, in a location, and just looking forward for an hour and a half.
Right.
Phones off, nothing else to distract me. I do find with Zoom or with anything online, I just am so...
It's distracted.
Out of the actual thing that I'm supposed to be watching. Yeah.
I was I did a couple virtual competitions.
Oh my.
And one of them was when we got to Dublin, we had to isolate in our hotel rooms.
Right.
So someone had reached out and I did 2 hours there. One of them fell during the week that I was doing isolation. So I was like, this is perfect. I won't just be sat with my thoughts. I can sit on my computer, watch some great dancing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't have, like you said, that energy, that straightforward, you're just focused on the stage, but you also have great people, other judges next to you that you can kind of chat with in between and just get excited about stuff.
Totally. Excuse
me. The way you tried to I'd sit down, do 10 numbers, and then I'd be up deciding I needed to make food again, or pouring a glass of wine, or folding laundry, and there's just so many distractions.
Can you do it on your own time? Is that why?
They do it a few different ways, but the ones I did were all you have 6 days to do it. It was about 500 entries, which I was like, oh, that will be easy. But then when you break it down, I need to be working quite a few hours a day if I want to get it done within 3-4 days. But again, my time management skills don't exist anymore because I haven't had to be anywhere at any particular time for 18 months.
And you have to decide it. You can't just
I have
go
to hold
to
myself
a
accountable.
Conference room and sit in it and do it. Yeah. Oh, geez.
So many distractions online.
Yeah.
So many distractions.
It's really sad. I feel like as an audience member, I'm not digesting the art properly. No. And then I just feel so horrible for all these people who put time and energy into making it happen.
Because you want to support.
Of course.
And it's important to support, especially artists.
We need to continue to make art.
Yeah. But it is really hard to enjoy it in the same way, which I definitely struggled with a bit. At the beginning, I refused to teach. The first few months. I was like, I'm not going to say yes to any classes. I'm just, maybe this is the little time I need away from dance, and that's okay. And then I got right back into it, which was nice. But I think I needed that space for a bit.
Yeah, that's so valid. Like, I don't, it's the same sort of hustle and bustle thing that we're talking about. Like, I don't feel that continuing through all of this because I felt like I had to was like a really healthy thing. Like, I just,
right?
It was so toxic at first where I was like, oh my God, I have to take class every day.
Otherwise
online.
you feel guilty?
Yeah.
About what, right?
Like, I know, right?
Like,
what am I actually
doing? You feel the guilt,
here?
but you have no idea what it's attached to.
Totally.
Or why.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's all on everyone else's terms. Like, it's like, whatever you need right now, then just do that. But yeah, I mean, making my own schedule was a difficult thing because I'm so used to just like, well, I was also in school for a long time, so I was just like, had to be at class. But yeah, taking time away is so important. Mm-hmm. Did it like, I don't know, does it like inform your practice now of like, I don't need to do what I did earlier on?
I would say, yeah.
Even
just in coming home. Yeah. I used to do this thing every time I'd come home where I was like, Mondays are my day off. That would last a single week, and I would work every day I was home. Yeah. And I would go back to London, and I'd be like, babe, I'm so tired. Babe is referring to my partner. I'm so exhausted. I just need a break. Yeah. But now I'm finding like, again, if I just take a little bit of time, just be selfish, even if it's not a full day off, even if I just have shorter days or, you know, especially with taking class in London, instead of holding myself to this, I need to be in class 5 days a week so that I'm training my body. I have come to terms with being okay with taking a week off, and it's okay not to be in that room.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I feel better for it. I feel so much better for it. Yeah,
no, that's so true. We're going to wrap up soon, but I do want to speak a little bit about your time on So You Think You Can Dance Canada.
So You Think You Can Dance.
So You Think You Can Dance.
Let's do it.
Just because I feel like I haven't been able to pick your brain about it.
Sure.
And I feel like a lot of people would be interested to hear about that weird time. Because first of all, like, I grew up watching, I'll give you a little bit of my personal experience. Yeah. Like, I grew up watching the American one, like, every single fucking week. Like, I was so obsessed with it because it was, like, the only dance thing at that time. There wasn't no World of Dance or anything. There's Dancing with the Stars, but, like, that wasn't.
It's not for me.
Yeah. It's like
that's not a bit of me, that.
But I think, like, with the Canadian version, like, I was so happy to see that. It was a little bit of, like, a diminished quality, I think, in some ways, but
we love a Canadian production.
We love a Canadian version of something. You know, let's just attach Canada onto the title, and then all of a sudden it's something. But I wondered too, from your perspective as being a contestant and being obviously in the top 20 of the last season, like, or the top 10 of the last season.
No, top 20.
Top 20.
Yeah.
Like, being an auditioner or being an auditionee for that show. And having to, you know, be up against like so many dancers around Canada, did you find it was difficult to actually get time in for yourself to be seen, you know, like airtime or whatever? Like, I wonder about that.
I think that, and I came into it as basically a super fan. Like, I loved the American one, and I was like, this is it. Like, watching Blake, watching Nick, watching Travis, all those dancers, just like, oh my God, I want this so bad. So when it came to Canada, I was so excited about it. And what I realized is it wasn't an audition, it was a casting. Which I hate to, like...
I didn't want to hear that. Okay.
I know, and it is the most disappointing thing. And obviously, there's obviously a dance element. You can't go on there with zero talent. No, but it is so much a casting where they want to hear about... I mean, my dad had passed, which was a huge part of my storyline. I had lost a bunch of weight, which was a huge part of my storyline. They wanted that, and that's what they were constantly prompting in interviews. And then anytime you kind of deflect from that storyline, they kind of try and bring it right back. So whereas I think a lot of, like, I always found, like, a lot of my students, when I got kicked off and came back to the studio, and they were like... You seem like a different person. And I'm like, I mean, it's really hard to be your genuine self when there's a camera pointed at you. Absolutely. I think that it just takes a lot of practice. And I was 22. Like, I was very young. I had always played characters in movies and just was playing a part. I had never got to be myself on camera. So that is very strange in itself. But also, they edit what they want. So even when you are funny, if you're talking about that your parent just died or that you've worked really hard to lose all this weight, it doesn't seem fitting that you'd throw a joke in, even though that's kind of who I am. So watching it back, I am a bit like, that is the most disingenuous version of myself. Like, it didn't feel authentic, and it did feel like the whole time I had to be putting on a performance, which was strange. There was many positive things about being part of something incredible like that, but it just wasn't the experience that I thought it was going to be, which was a little disheartening for a bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember watching you like come back a couple of times to the seasons and like audition again and again, and like I obviously admired that so much, just to like see someone who's like really just, I need to be here, like I need to be on this show, and then to hear that they, you know, cast you, quote unquote cast you in the top 20, and then just like hammer in on this one thing and put you in a box with this one thing. I know you to be such a jokester and such a like bright entertainer, and then, you know, only this storyline of a very traumatic experience too, like it's really disheartening to hear that it's like a casting rather than a variety show of like talent. Like, I think there's so many great dancers that have come out of it.
So many.
You know, and it's like, I mean, even just the idea of like a competition and a dance thing is like a very, very oxymoron thing. Yeah. Because like,
100%.
Who's to say is good at dancing or whatever. But I feel like from your perspective, like that is it's such a difficult thing to, I imagine, to like see on the American version, and then, you know, actually get in the room and it's
a completely different. The magic has gone a little bit.
The magic is gone.
Because I don't want it to be a negative thing, and for so long it was a negative thing for me. I was going through quite a traumatic relationship. I was dating someone that was in the top 20 with me, which never do. Just why would you go on a reality TV show with a partner? Just a competitive dance show. Not a thing you want to do. But we were very young, and like, it is what it is. And I attached a lot of my feelings on the show to that relationship. And then coming out of it, I was like, is this what I want to be doing? Is this what I want to be doing? And then thankfully I found that passion again. But I met incredible people that I'm still good friends with. Like the winner, Jordan, Melissa Mitro, just incredible people.
Fantastic.
That I would never exchange that experience for anything in the world. And I can forever look back at it and be like, remember that summer that I was on a reality TV show? It was the last season. Like, in reality, only 80 people in this entire country got to experience what I got to experience.
Yeah.
And that, I wouldn't change that for the world. Like,
I'm so fucking jealous.
It's crazy that it's like, because when I was that age, that was just what your whole year revolved around. Most people wanted to be auditioning for that show.
Right.
It was such a big part of the dance community. It was the thing.
Yeah.
And now that it's just gone.
No.
Like, it just hasn't been around for almost like 10 years now.
Yeah.
And it's so strange.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely the thing. I was too young when it was on, obviously, so I couldn't go on, but I was like, okay, great. When I'm 18, gonna be there. It'll be season 12 or whatever, and I'll be right there. And then Jordan won, and it was season 4, and that's it.
And that's a wrap, friends.
Canceled.
Yeah, canceled.
And then meanwhile, the American one keeps going, but it's like they had like a kids version. And
they milked that.
They milked the
They
fuck
really
out of that.
Got the last drop.
I was like willing to get a visa just so I could like audition for the American.
It's crazy. It is crazy. Like, especially when you obviously had this love for it, like I did, and I luckily got that opportunity. But I understand, because it did. Growing up and watching that show, you're like, oh my gosh, what I'm doing has this platform now.
Yeah.
And that's so cool, because before it just felt like it was for us. But then so watching it, you're like, dance has this incredible platform. It's something you want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
You want that moment. And as dancers, we very rarely get to play ourselves and be in the public eye, doing what we do. And being ourselves.
Yeah.
And that is why it was such an incredible platform, and shows like that are so great.
Yeah.
I do wish there was a little bit more authenticity to them, and a little bit less of the driving those storylines. But I do try and encourage, like, especially young students that I still have, just like take it with a grain of salt. The shows are amazing. Don't stop watching them. You can still enjoy the amazing talent, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Don't go take a class from someone because they have 100,000 followers. If you like the way someone moves, you should be in their fucking class and taking class whether there's 2 people there or 20 people there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I think that's so wise, and thank you for sharing, because it's a nice reminder. It's a really nice reminder. Yeah, that's an interesting story to tell, and I appreciate you being willing to open up about it.
Of course.
Because I just feel like it's such a unique experience that you had. So
it was, definitely
it
was.
A lot. Yeah, and thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much.
We could keep going, but we have to wrap up.
No, that's okay. It's been so lovely. I'm so appreciative that you asked me to do this. This is the perfect send-off to leave Toronto. I've missed the city so fucking much, and I need to spend a little more time here. I'm very lucky that I can be this like transatlantic hun that just comes back to Canada and then goes back to the UK, and I just need to spend more time doing things like this while I'm in the homeland.
It's my absolute pleasure to have you, and to have you in person too.
Yes,
it feels like such
makes
a treat.
it so much more special
For a little breakfast chat.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Art Versations podcast. Please help the podcast community continue to grow by clicking subscribe or follow on your podcast platform, and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at ArtVersationsPod. You'll find photos of the guests you just heard, plus highlights and quotes from each episode. Let's keep the Artversation going. Send in a DM with your thoughts about art and any questions you might have for guests. Special thank you goes out to Jen Marquez and Maxim Bartnowski for their contributions. And thank you, listener. Till next time.